All right, so we're up and running. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Nailed It. That's my podcast. And we're here in the Total Wealth Academy studios, which that's my company, Urban Restoration. I'm joined here by my buddy, my good friend, a guy that I built a house for in 2017. He is a former Houston Astro, World Series champion. He was part of the Astros from what year to what year?
I started in 2016, and then last season was my last season, so through 2021.
Derek Vigoa.
Nice to meet you, people.
Nice to meet you.
Well, listeners.
Oh, the listeners. The listeners. This is Derek's first ever podcast.
Can you tell?
No. This is Derek's first rodeo. Yeah, I think we're still playing. Okay. This is Derek's first rodeo at podcasting, and he also just went to his first ever rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
Usually during rodeo season.
Spring training.
Yeah. So what's that like?
Rodeo or spring training?
We're going to get to rodeo second.
Okay.
But people, it's not every day that you get to interview a major league person. So what was that life like for you? Like, give everybody, how did it happen? How did you get hired? What did you do? And then how did you transition into where you transitioned into?
So it's actually pretty interesting because I started in 2016, but I skipped spring training that year.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's go.
I know. Silent. I'm sorry.
So in 2016, I got hired, but the process took too long. So I actually went straight to opening day. Astros were opening up at Yankee Stadium in 2016. So I skipped spring training in 2016. I was a translator in 16. So
for Yuli,
and we had other pitchers. Michael Feliz was one of the pitchers that used a translator, and I worked on our advanced scouting team. In 2016, we missed the playoffs. The season ended.
Because 2015, we made the playoffs.
That was the Kansas City Royals World Series.
I was there. I was on the upper tier.
Well, part of the reason
when
why
we were ahead.
Part of the reason why I wanted to work with the Astros was the success they had in 15, and I kind of saw that playing forward, and having future success. So, joined the Astros in 16, missed the playoffs. It was a bummer. But then I got asked to take over the team operations role. And you're asking about spring training, and then basically what happened was I got that job at the end of 16 leading up to the 2017 season, and I had to plan all of the logistics for Major League spring training in 2017, having never been to spring training or ever worked one. So it's a pretty intense situation. A lot of planning goes into it.
Yeah, and so you're in charge of every ball, every bat, gloves, cleats, shoes, everything.
We have a lot of players that show up to spring training, a lot of staff members, and they're all non-local, or pretty much all non-local. So we have about, aside from the 40-man roster, we have about 60 players that show up to Major League spring training, and we have about, I want to say 50 staff members that are full-time at spring training. So you're planning about 100 to 150 people over the course of 2 months to be in South Florida. That includes all of our equipment, moving all of our players around to all the games across Florida for the different games. We have to fly people once spring training is over back to start the season, opening day. But yeah, it's about 60. You're there over 50 days in a row in West Palm. That's where spring training was. And yeah, it's a lot. You got a lot of players, a lot of young guys that have never been around Major League camp before, and trying to guide them through the right process and not do anything wrong, and maintain everyone's kind of flow of each day. And each day starts very early. We start 5 a.m., 5:30, and kind of there all day until the game's over. And spring training is a beast. It's definitely very interesting.
What's the part that made you say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore?
Well, I mean, I have so much respect for everyone that works in baseball, because the time constraints, you're working every single day from the beginning of February to the end of, hopefully October. There are 162 games. There's spring training games. There's playoff. By the end of the year, you are wiped out. My personal job, I had to travel with the team every single road trip. So when people had, kind of like a little bit of time off on the homestand, or if the team goes on the road and they stay behind, they get to spend a little bit more time at home. Meanwhile, I was traveling with the team. So that definitely took a toll over the years. I had 6 seasons traveling with the team. It's about between 150 and 200 days on the road a year. So that's pretty tough, and I think that took a toll a little bit on.
So just so everyone knows, he didn't get to go to a Texans game. I don't think you've ever been to a Texans game, right?
I mean, going to other sporting events during the season was pretty rough because you don't have Saturdays or Sundays off.
We invited you to go to the lake during your off days. You never did.
I haven't had this now that I left the Astros. I'm going to have a first weekend in the summer off in 6 years. Yeah, I haven't had a weekend off in the summer in 6 years, which you don't really feel it until you go through it and you're like, man, that's crazy. I can't believe that's true.
Yeah. In 6 years. Yeah, there was no spring break. Spring break was spring training.
Yeah. I mean, but you do get the holidays off, right? Like, the December, January time is a little bit slow. And that was lovely, but,
Yeah, but what are you doing other than playing golf on the good days?
Yeah.
We've invited you to the lake so many times you never could go.
I miss going out on the water. I'm from Miami, so having those summers where you really couldn't like escape or go on the boat or anything like that, it's been pretty not super fun. But leaving the Astros, while I appreciate all of my time there, I'm so excited to live a little bit of a normal life in this new endeavor.
So I caught you when you were in the middle of it was 2018. We were building your house in 2016.
So yeah,
or 2017 we built it.
Early 2018 is when we met.
Yeah. So I built a house for Derek, and he closed on it. And since then we added on a backyard bar.
That's right.
The 10th inning. We Kyle with Set Roots.
Great job.
He designed your backyard.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we just recently repainted your house.
Yep. Yeah. It's a very first, taking a couple steps back. I can't believe I own a home. I come from 2 Cuban immigrants, and they worked so hard to have very little for themselves and for me, and the ability to buy a home in my 20s was ridiculous. I never thought I would have a chance to do that.
And then you graduated from Penn.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were a baseball player.
That's right.
Yeah. What was that like?
Oh, well.
And then you went into minors.
I think no, I didn't play minor leagues. I decided to be a professional.
Well, you did the summer
ball. Yeah. Most people in the college baseball circuit will spend their summers, playing in some wood bat league or something. But you hit me with a lot there. It's a long path. It's an interesting path. So I grew up in Miami, raised by 2 Cuban immigrants. I never left Miami, spent a lot of time there, and then played baseball my entire life. At 18, I started looking, or 17, junior year, started looking at schools where I wanted to go study, where I could go play and study. And, Penn recruited pretty hard and did a visit for the school. I fell in love with it. Philadelphia is fantastic. And then I was the first one to leave Miami out of my family to go to school, right? The first leaving the nest was an interesting conversation with mom. But I spent 4 years at Penn playing baseball there, and then moved back to Miami and lived there for a little bit before I moved to Houston in 2016.
You didn't have many nickels to rub together when you went to school, right?
No, and I came out of there with pretty heavy debt.
Right. And then you hit it. I guess you hit it big in 2017.
2017, the World Series.
Yeah. Right, because you get playoff share.
Yeah, there's bonuses that are tied to going to the playoffs, right. and that's why when I talk about the Astros, you're on the road and you sacrifice a lot of time and freedom, but you also get a huge return. And I am forever grateful those years and all the players that had my back and changed my life essentially. 2017, we won the World Series. I mean, we had a stretch of 5 years where we went to the World Series 3 times, and we went to the playoffs every single year of those 5 years. So
yeah, and that changed.
Yeah, it's economically
financially,
huge.
Yeah.
I don't have the house that I have that you built. I don't have it if we don't win. And the success of the team was definitely a huge life changer for me.
What would you tell people about success? Like, what have you learned from the Astros that you could give a nugget to people today? Because I see, from your perspective, I'm gonna shut up and let you talk. What is the path to success that you see?
Well, one of my best friends from home, he's a 2-time Olympian, Eddie Alvarez. He medaled in speed skating in the Winter Olympics and in baseball in the Summer Olympics, and he has a quote that he uses all the time, and he says, passion has a funny way of trumping logic. So when I left Miami and I decided to work for the Astros, I had a great job at a sports agency. I was living in Miami, but I wanted to get closer to the game. I missed the game. I'd been away from it for a while, and I packed all my stuff up in the car, and I drove to Houston. Didn't know anybody here. Didn't have any support system or anything, and I was starting a job that I had no idea if I was going to be good at it or not. And 6 years later, 7 years later, I own a home. I've had a wonderful group of friends. I've had real life experiences with the Astros and traveled the country. It's ridiculous. I look back and I can't believe that I ended up here, but it was all rooted in me wanting to get closer to the game because I felt something about it. And
what is your secret power? Everybody has one. Mine's the persistence. I think I texted you like 4 times this morning to make sure we were coming. I called you 3 or 4 times.
So persistence is an understatement for you, but no, I don't know. I try to pride myself on being empathetic. I think that helps me understand other people's position and have a little bit of grace for others. And in turn, that ends up with having a little bit of grace for myself. I don't really come from a place of like really aggressive, got to work hard. It's almost like second nature to me to put in effort and care. If you care about something and you really care about it, you're going to be okay. But I think empathy is what I always go back to make sure that you understand other people, right? I think in the job with the Astros, it was an integral part in the job was understanding others, right? Understanding the players, understanding that they're all different. AJ Hinch taught me a bunch of that stuff. AJ Hinch was, a fantastic manager, and the reason why was not because bullpen. I mean, he was great at bullpen usage and all that stuff, but he was great at understanding.
Cole would say differently.
A lot of people would say differently, but the numbers speak for themselves. But what I always admired about AJ was that he never had one way of dealing with people. He understood everyone's makeup, their personalities, what motivates them,
it was like he was a psychologist.
Well, he studied psychology at Stanford. But yeah, and he taught me that. So everyone's a little bit different, and that's okay. And trying to understand what motivates people is what allows you to get by. So I think that, tying it back to what my superpower is, I think that I empathize with people and try to understand their side, and that helps me connect with people.
And so from the Astros, what did that bring to you to where you are today?
I mean, we talked about the financial impact.
No, besides that,
I think
what was where are you at today because of that, and how did it lead to each other?
Cool. So I decided after last season that I was going to walk away from baseball. Very, very weird, but it was time when your gut is telling you, hey, it's time to move on, find a new thing. You kind of know it. You just know it. Your instincts is telling you it had a good run, but it's on to the next thing. So in November of last year, I started, before that, I started thinking about what it is that I wanted to do. What would make me happy? What would make me feel fulfilled? And last November, I started working for a nonprofit here in Houston called Southern Smoke. What we do is we do crisis relief for food and beverage workers. I think during the pandemic, everyone realized how important bars and restaurants were. We missed it. We couldn't go out. Things were closed. And all those workers were struggling, right? They're hourly workers and they had no support system, no backup plan. Everyone tried to pivot and get by. So that hit home because, I have a bunch of friends that work in the industry, and I wanted to make sure that if they ever have another situation where they were put in a tough spot financially or medically, economic, whatever is going on, that they had someone to turn to. So it's a fantastic organization. I'm super excited to start working for a nonprofit. I never thought that I would be here, in this time of my life, but I'm very grateful that I had an opportunity to work with them. The organization's fantastic.
And so what do you do for them right now?
So my title is Director of Advancement. That's a very generic
Director
title.
of Advancement.
Right. Very weird. Very, I don't know the nonprofit world.
It's like business development.
It's whatever it needs to be.
Gotcha.
I think that's the best way to put it. So I oversee our branding and marketing communication side. So external facing communications, and then partnerships and sponsorships.
And so I think y'all have recently announced a bunch of partnerships, right?
We're just this March. Actually yesterday we announced that so American Express and Resi donated $500,000 to the foundation for our emergency relief fund. That was tied to a campaign that they were doing about making reservations in March. So we reached the threshold of 1 million completed Resi reservations in March, and that triggered a $500,000 donation to us. We're extremely grateful. Our founder, Chris Shepard, he's a local chef, James Beard Award winner. He is the heart and soul of the organization, and those partnerships really are driven because of the mission that he set out to do with this organization.
How I knew Chris Shepard was someone in Houston was when Chris Shepard got COVID. Chronicle posted it. The food world of Houston is in turmoil because Chris Shepard has COVID.
It's a thing. It's crazy, right? Like someone can mean so much to a community, but Chris was the one that when Harvey hit, he was in the kitchen the same day trying to make food and feed all of his staff and trying to get food out to people. Like that's what he does. Right?
He's a giver. He's a go-giver,
and he doesn't even think twice. Right when the pandemic hit, the Southern Smoke was not doing a lot of pandemic relief. We had no experience with that. It was a small organization, right? The pandemic hit, and the organization hired, I think, over 30 case managers so they can get all of the funding that they had out to people that needed it. Chris is why Houston is the way it is, I think, and especially in the culinary world. What he tries to do with the nonprofit, how he lives his life, his relationships, how people care about him. It's just indicative of the human being that he is. So when you know someone like that, you want to be around them.
Right. And also, the way that he looks at venues is the way I look at real estate. He totally made me a ton of money because of what he's doing on airline.
Yeah, the Houston Farmers Market.
The Farmers Market.
Yeah, what they're doing. His partner Todd Mason, MLB Capital Partners, they're brilliant, right? Bunch of families in the Heights in that area. A market that had been a destination before, but was the infrastructure was crumbling. Todd came in with Chris and tried to not only build it up, but keep all of the farmers and local vendors that are there as part of what the farmers market is. I love that. And they're doing a great job. And for me, who's a homeowner who rides my bike to the farmers market at least once a week, I couldn't be happier to have them in the neighborhood. You
literally live, I don't know, maybe 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
And then I have, on the edge of your street, I have a project that I just sold to a person that we're good, close friends with.
The area's popping for sure.
The area is popping. They moved from right next to El Bolillo. They moved over to I'm building their house on the corner. It's booming.
The Houston Farmers Market is going to be, it's going to be a huge destination. If it already it is already, but they only have two restaurants that are open right now with a third on the way.
And then the live music venue.
I mean, they're gonna have. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in the works that I can't share just yet, but it's gonna be. It's gonna be.
That's what this podcast is for.
We're not gonna break news.
Don't worry. There's like 4 people that watch this. So
perfect. I don't care.
Don't worry.
It's gonna blow.
Thank you, Mom, Dad. I'm just kidding. My mom and dad are both dead, so it's true.
That's perfect.
Kendra's always like, your mama. And I'm like, no, she can't turn off the light. I can't remember what she said, but she was like, your mama. And I go, no, my mama can't do that. And then I go, because she's dead. And then anytime I say something that
people feel awkward.
No, anytime I say something like, she's like, oh, that's ugly. And I'm like, or that's dumb. And I'm like, man, I hate it. I can't ever say your mama.
Yeah.
Because your mom is actually cool. Like, I can't say your mom's fat, your mom's ugly, your mom's dumb.
What a tough life
None of
for
that
you.
is true.
I'm so sorry that you can't use that.
Her mom, I'm spoiled. I got a hot wife and her mom. I got a mother-in-law and a father-in-law who are both gems. Like, amazing people. I constantly say, and the reason why Derek and I have such close bond is because he lost his dad early on.
It's the reason why I moved here.
Yeah, we share that part, and we've had very deep discussions about life. Also, I respect the way that he handles adversity. He's had a ton of adversity thrown at him. People talk shit all the time about the Astros. 2017, the guy holds his head up with utmost respect and admiration. Yeah, I mean, you're a gem as well.
If I'm going to get these comments, I'm going to come to this podcast more often.
For my life, I mean, you've been there. You've seen me through a whole bunch of stuff, and I mean, anytime. This is what I tell people: the beauty of building houses is that houses is not the product. The product is the person building the house. You feel comfortable enough, like when you build someone's house, that is a revenue source for you forever. And you can trade that revenue source for other things. You and I have traded services for tickets. You and I now just trade services because we're friends.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know. I just think people, it's just normal for people to look at someone else's position and say, oh, wow, how lucky, right?
Yeah.
And you are in the middle of your, oh, wow, how lucky. He gets to travel the world. He's with all those major league players. If only I had his job, I wouldn't have left, right?
Grass is always greener.
Grass is always greener where you fertilize it. So I'm not going to go with what do people not know that they need to know, but I would say from talking to you when we used to go walk as you were walking your dogs and we would talk, I could just see the love of the game leave you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a business, right? I mean, and the same thing goes for your industry too, right? Like building a house, it can be the job, right? It can be a job. It can be revenue, whatever.
It is.
I think you got to work pretty hard at focusing on what parts of it make you happy. For me, being on that side of the game, the watching the game and being a fan, it goes away really quick. And I cannot wait to sit in the stands this year and drink a beer and eat a hot dog and
not have
yell,
one of the wives
and not have to deal with any logistics that come with working for the team. And I'm sure that you have projects that are a little bit complicated, and then I think that you have projects that you're like, wow, it's fun to create something. Right. The creation of a space or the possibility of memories happening in those spaces, that's the cool part.
I think when you focus on the money, you lose your love, right? Because I think that was the last thing that was tying you there was probably the money.
I mean, yeah.
And then when you focus on your passion, like what Chris does,
yeah,
he builds businesses just come to him because it's his passion.
Yeah, I think that getting tied up in what you feel passionate about, and going back to that quote, the passion has a funny way of trumping logic. Anyone that sits down and looks like, oh, Derek left baseball and now works for a nonprofit, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But if I'm passionate about it, I'm gonna bet on that. I'm gonna bet on that passion because it worked out once already, and I'm gonna keep on doing that until it fails me.
What would you tell somebody who's sitting right now in a cubicle or driving home from work, listening to this on YouTube or Facebook, and they're like, I'm not happy with where I'm at?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself first why, right? Like, why aren't you happy? It could be a bunch of stuff. It doesn't always have to be work, right? It could be personal relationships or things aspirations that you haven't gone after. But it's important to look inwards first before you make any decision, in my opinion. I think that's what I did a little bit with this last move professionally. And that's what I try to do with all facets of life is if I'm unhappy, how can I look inward to figure out why it is that I'm unhappy and then make a change and not attribute the unhappiness to whatever it is that's easiest to attribute it to.
Okay, so I'm not happy. I've looked inward. I found that the reason why I'm not happy is because I don't feel like I'm in the place that I need to be, that I feel like my purpose should be being elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
what would you say about the fear of letting go of comfort to going to the world of uncertainty?
First of all, I am not I don't claim to be the person that knows all of this stuff. I just have my opinions on all this, right? So I'll tell you a story on the fears of making changes or anything like that. The start of the pandemic in 2020, we were in spring training in West Palm. You know how it went. It was March. Things were uncertain. They were changing day by day.
Right.
We got word on the 15th of March that everyone was going to go home. Spring training was going to be delayed. The start of the season was going to get delayed. And everyone was in a holding pattern. So everyone went home. We got everyone home in a span of 2 days. Flew home. Had no idea what to do. Couldn't plan anything. Obviously, me being the person I am, I got a little stir crazy. And
so he ordered a inflatable swimming pool and put it in the front of his $80,000 grass yard that he got from the Astros outfield. Yeah. Okay. So I'm driving by and I see this. Go ahead.
After the kiddie pool, I decided that I wanted to take on a project that would keep me occupied and also taught me to repeatedly fail and be okay with it.
Ooh, I like this.
So,
get your pens ready, everybody. This is where the juice is getting ready to happen.
I went over to River Oaks Jeep, Blake over there. He'd sold me cars before, and I said, "Hey, do you have any empty cargo vans?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Can I buy one?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. We use it to haul maintenance or parts around the city, but I'm like, yeah, I'll sell you one." So I bought a cargo van. It's a Ram ProMaster 159 extended wheelbase, and I decided that I was going to.
No matter what you say, it's not going to sound any cooler. You can name all the different things to it.
Decided to make it a camper van.
I bought a cargo van, a Ram 159.
I mean, for people that know, van life
double overhead cabs.
There's there's a lot of people online that are like van life, huge communities.
I know all the people who are watching
nuts.
My podcast are like, "Oh wow, 159 Dodge Ram cargo van."
It's a big deal. I really went down the rabbit hole of understanding how to build out a camper van, but I did a lot of stuff with me and my friends that don't know how to do this stuff, right? We did the installation, we did the soundproofing, we did the electrical running in through the entire cargo van. We outsourced to do a little bit of the framing and order these different parts and designed and all that stuff. We built out a cargo van in a couple months during the pandemic, and I had never done that before. It was scary, and a lot of times I would get so frustrated that I would punch the wall and walk away and be like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. And then I would attack it a day or two later. So going back to what you were saying of people sitting in a cubicle or not being a little bit hesitant of making a big change, failure is okay. I think that people are terrified of failing because it makes them feel bad. But
what about when it's failing? Like if I fail, I don't have any money. Like I only have this much money left, and you're telling me to go chase my dream, and I've only got this much nest egg left, And these guys are over here talking about like, just go fail.
Yeah.
I mean, if I fail, I lose my home, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
It's a scary part. And I definitely am privileged to the point now that if I do fail, I'll be okay, right? I didn't have that luxury when I moved from Miami to Houston. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have anything.
But you still left.
But I still left. And I don't know if it was a right logical decision, but I knew in my heart of hearts that I felt passionate about it. And I think that we underestimate how much that is valued at.
So my quote that I posted yesterday that I had tons of comments and shares on, which is crazy. It was, God doesn't give you a dream that matches your checkbook. He gives you he's not checking your bank account. He's checking your faith.
Well, I mean, it's beautiful, right? But I think that the whole thing is, we are powerful beyond our own understanding. That's my opinion. If you have your determination and you feel strongly about something, that's a pretty powerful thing. You can make some things happen by being that way. And I think that we weigh failure way too much, personally.
Yeah, I don't understand why failure is such a negative word. I posted this today that employee should be the negative word. Like, it's okay to be, if you're an employee and you're not building something, right? Like, you've been an employee of something that was greater than yourself, that you get paid according to the value that is brought to the table year by year by year. That's way different. That's the same as being a 1099 salesperson. The more I go and sell, the more I'm getting back in return, right? The more wins y'all got, the more opportunities you had for playoffs, the more bonus that you got from playoff ticket sales. Blah, 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 blah. What I'm saying is we value being somebody who makes $100,000 a year. We assign value to that because there's so many people that are only making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. And I'm just telling you that if you really think $100,000 goes a long way, you are mistaken. $100,000 doesn't get you far at all. But what can get you far is making, like Derek and I have toyed around with what to do to your house ever since last year.
Since I bought it?
Yeah. Well, how do we increase value, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what should we do? What's the opportunity to do now? And we come down to refi the property and cash out the money and then go and reinvest. We've came up with sell the property, go buy something else, and then do the 2-year free tax return or free taxes again. So we've come up with those two options. Right. But either way you go,
it's the risk involved with either option is not that scary.
It's not risky.
It's not. So I had and this is a separate, but I had a meeting yesterday, and one of the quotes that I threw out in the meeting was, scared money don't make money. So, if you want to take a risk and do something, you're not going to make a bunch of money by being super risk averse. You're going to have to take a little bit of a risk, but the risk isn't that scary. If it doesn't work out, I'm always you'll make it out, you make it back somewhere else. And I think I approach that with most of the things in my life.
Everyone that I know who has lost a lot of money, we were at lunch. Brian and I were at lunch with Carly's dad and mom, and he was telling us about D-Day because he was one of the smartest men in the room at Enron, right? He was right there in the room
where it happened,
talking to Ken Lay and Skilling and all those people. And he was telling us about, like, his wife was telling us the story about the day that Enron failed, the day that they halted trading, and they just watched their entire $4 million life savings go to nothing. And she said, she told Brian goes, how did you deal with it? And she said, it's not the money that we lost that really killed me. She said it was the 13 years of me being an at-home mom by myself while my husband is 6 months in the Philippines or in, Thailand or whatever, doing these deals, putting these projects together. I'm never going to get those 13 years back. She said, that's the part that killed me. But today, all that they lost, now he's like way. He got like a bachelor's degree in losing money. He got a master's degree in losing money. And he got a doctorate in, okay, if I can lose this much, then I can make double that. And that's what I don't think people understand is if you have the opportunity to lose big, that means that you are way more valuable than someone who never risked anything.
So the concept is it's something that, I read, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book, David and Goliath, and it talks about how things that are perceived as negatives aren't always negatives. And I think that's true with failure is having gone through failure or having gone through a personal loss, like losing a parent. A lot of times we attribute that to be a negative thing. And that book and my life experience has taught me, I don't buy that. I think that all that is a positive if you look at it the right way. Losing a parent, how could that be a positive? Well,
it taught me this. It taught me that.
It teaches you so much, right? It teaches you to value human relationships, right? It teaches you what being a parent should feel like, or what the importance of it is. It teaches you a lot. Perfect example, like, I don't know if I'm the same person right now if I don't lose my dad when I lost him, right? And I think that the same thing for any failure. Carly's dad, having gone through the Enron stuff, he is a way better, well-rounded, a wiser person today than he was before that. And we think it's this huge negative thing. So I do think that there's a reshift that needs to happen in your brain when it comes to failure, for sure. And it attributes it, and it kind of transcends everything. Building a house or buying a house or leaving your job or doing whatever. It's not the end of the world if you fail.
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I built my first house.
And look at you.
I didn't even know what I was doing when I built your house.
That's a little concerning, but
I mean, it's like every house you figure something new out. Like when I'm doing vaulted ceilings, I'm relearning new framing patterns. There's new codes that you have to do, new structural requirements because you're pitching a roof without any ceiling joist, right? So as your creativity increases, so does your knowledge base, the things that you got to pick up. But without doing any of that, if I just built houses, right? Let's just say I just built normal houses and I didn't put the brick on the ceiling and I didn't do the designs that I try to do. If I didn't do that, no one would remember my name.
No one would care about their homes the way that I care about my house, right? Like,
yeah, the best gift that I saw was someone gave you that drawing in glass.
Yeah. It's my first house, right, ever.
Right.
And someone did a graphite sketch of the outside of the house, and I'll have that forever.
Right.
The same way with the copies of the blueprints of the house that
Right.
I had framed up and mounted on the walls in the dining room.
Yeah, I've never seen someone love one of my houses the way you love my house. Because, and that's, I think that's, and honestly, I mean, I used to walk across the street in the mornings when he would be home from a homestand. We would get up early just to drink coffee together.
Yeah. I think that for me, the reason why, design, all that stuff, right? It's built to create memories, right?
Yes.
The open concept, the kitchen the way it is, like I have vivid pictures of my house and memories in it, and I think that's why I will always have fond memories, and that's why I'll probably stay in it longer than I ever thought, because I'm so emotionally tied to it. It's fantastic.
The funniest part is anytime you ever had a party at your house, it was always I'm always being introduced to people. Oh, this is our builder. Like, you built this house? And I'm like, yeah, this is what it looked like. This is what I did. I get so excited to talk about the house that I built.
Everyone knows Curtis.
I'm a lot. But okay, let's drill down to the final moments of the podcast.
That's a good pun. Drill down.
Drill down.
Cool.
Let's drill down to the final thing that you want to leave people with. What I wanted to leave people with is, there's that moment in the movie with Brad Pitt, and he's talking to the guy who's the king, and he goes up to him, and he's wearing that mask, and he gets out, he's late because he was, like, I don't know, having sex in the tent or sleeping or whatever.
Classic Brad.
Yeah, and he gets out and he goes to face that giant. Remember?
I don't know what movie we're talking about.
Okay,
but
we're talking about. Someone online can tell me what it was.
Sure. Brad Pitt.
Got
it.
You don't remember? He's dressed up in like that old world. It's like Rome Trojan.
Sure.
It's.
Don't know it.
Okay.
I was going to go with Ocean's 11, but go ahead.
No, it's not Ocean's 11. Anyway, in the movie, he says right before he goes and kills the guy, he says, the guy was talking about, I'm the king, and he said, basically he's saying, I'm the warrior. I'm the one that kills these people, and that's why no one will remember your name. And I don't want to be somebody out there who nobody remembers your name. I like the fact that when I go to Cabo San Lucas and I'm standing inside of some place thousands of miles away from where I live, and I know someone's recognizing me. Or I've been in Cancun and I run into 3 people from Houston real estate. It's insane.
I feel you. I think that if I could think about anything that I would, or my mantra, I guess, or my ethos on what we leave people with, or what I think about, is I think people forget exact conversations you have, but you always remember how people made you feel. Right?
Oh,
and
man.
It comes up all the time. Like, you don't really remember every conversation you have with someone, but if someone asks you how you felt when you dealt with that person, that sticks with you a little bit longer.
Every single person at the rodeo cook-off, when they finally got a chance to meet the guy that helped us get all the tickets for all the memories, all the times all the funny stories that we had during all the playoff games, when everyone finally got a chance to meet you,
yeah,
everybody left. And like Tommy said this himself, he's like, yeah, we need to add Derek more to more events. That was a good guy. Well, actually, he also said that you bring hot women with you.
He was also drinking, but
he was.
But I mean, people remember how you felt in those situations, and that's what I try to do when we talk about empathy, or we talk about professional decisions or anything like that, or Southern Smoke and what we do. If you're tying your everyday to something that you believe in and you're making an impact, people are going to feel good about interacting with you, right? Like when we deal with F&B workers in crisis and you have their back and you're doing work to support them, they're going to remember that. When you create a home that feels part of my life, and every good memory and bad memory and emotional memory that I ever have, a lot of them are tied to that house in the last 6 years. So it's kind of like part of it. You remember the feeling. You don't remember every single detail of everything, but you remember how you feel.
And from my standpoint, you look back at that house and say, man, that used to be a duplex, and someone didn't love it, and it was run down, and people didn't take care of anything, didn't care about it, and then we transformed it into what it is today, and now it's a house full of memories and moments and good times and bad times. It's full of life.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool that you got to create that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're all trying to do, is create something that we can look back at and be like, damn,
we're all trying to nail it.
Nice.
We're all just trying to nail it.
You nailed the landing.
I nailed it. So I appreciate you. I'm glad that we're friends. I'm glad that you have an opportunity to see the world or see Houston during the 6 months.
Yeah.
Kind of
that
cool. You've never had to experience before.
Rodeo's cool.
I mean, it's weird that you've never been to the rodeo. He posted yesterday that it was his first rodeo. It was a picture of him at the rodeo.
It was actually my first rodeo.
Yeah, it was actually your first rodeo.
Such a cool thing.
You can also, if anyone's wanting to connect to Derek, you can find him on Tinder.
Don't start.
Or MySpace. He's a big fan of Facebook.
Please don't.
No, Derek is on Instagram. He's an Instagram guy. How do they connect with, like, if someone has a business and they want to help with Southern Smoke, what should they do?
So reach out to my email. It's Derek, DEREK, @southernsmoke.org. We're always looking for different people to connect with for fundraising, or if anyone's in need. If you work in F&B and you're going through a crisis, we ask you to apply on our site. But if you need more information, Derek @southernsmoke.org, or visit our website at southernsmoke.org. Southernsmoke.org.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Cool, brother. Thank you.